All right, Corey. They say if you do this show long enough, crazy things can happen.
We're going to need one of those today. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how you feel, but I certainly feel like we're kind of like Brent Suter when they used to drag him out in the middle of a fourth inning when the game was like 13-1, and they're like, somebody's got to do it, guys. You know, someone's got to do it. The games have to get played. We're here, but you never know. Maybe, just maybe, we get some magic. You know.
Hey, I don't count these guys out, man. After the last couple comebacks, I had them dead in the water, so I'm not counting them out again. I know that much.
We'll see.
So maybe we can get something going there. Yeah, very wishful thinking at this point.
Well, we're gonna have a discrepancy here, possibly. They're calling a foul ball. I know I'm a little ahead of you, so we'll sync up. We'll sync up when we feel like maybe there's a necessity or when necessary. I guess I'm trying to get at, but maybe a base runner or two before we get into the syncing of the game here. But 6-1, 1-2. I currently have on the man Sal Stewart. Kelly. Pretty unique arm coming out of the pen for the Rays. Actually saw him got out of a jam against the Pirates not too long ago in extra innings, so shout out to Kelly for that. Hopefully he can do the opposite, get himself into a jam, but it's not looking like it.
Yeah, that's one of the weirder arm angles you're going to see. It's got to be hard to pick that up coming out of there.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where you'd like to see it more than once, but unfortunately that's what's make those relievers tough from time to time, is you don't get to see them more than once. So we'll see. One out in the inning with Eugenio coming to the plate. Kind of feel like he needs to get going here at some point too, but he's had some big hits though. I'm not saying he's not been impactful, especially on a team that's been as bad offensively as they've been. He's been at least, serviceable, I guess would be the term.
Yeah, a little bit of a lightning rod. Well, from everything I gathered, he was the one that told Key Brian Hayes and Dane Myers yesterday that this was going to be their day, that they're both going deep. So, I think he's just, if nothing else, he's out there spreading the good vibes and getting everybody else going. So
that he is.
We'll take that, I guess. Yeah.
Dr. Oz. Who knew? We had the guy.
Right.
Is that his name? I don't know what that guy's name is. It's not Dr. Oz. It's maybe it's Oz the Mentalist or whatever. It's the one guy that's basically been to every team imaginable at this point. I think I would assume he's doing pretty well in his life. I don't know how much money he's made, but he's almost out of franchises to go visit. I think he's been to almost every franchise in all four major sports. He's working himself through college football, guessing people's pen numbers and whatever else that guy does.
Yeah, that's it. That guy's kind of wild. I've seen him make it through ESPN sets and everywhere else, and everywhere he goes, he blows everybody's mind. It's wild.
He's doing the car wash, that's for sure. I think that's what they call it down there on the.
There it is.
On the the mothership, I think is what it was called by somebody at one point. But the old car wash where you go through every show that they have there just to try to promote whatever it is that you're there to promote.
No doubt.
Well, our last hope is Nathaniel Lowe, and he is probably at a point where, if I had to guess, everybody's just ready to go home. So, a little bit of a token baseball game today, wasn't it? I mean, it's just kind of the game you get on a getaway day after you have won as many games as they've won in the thrilling fashion that they've had. An incredibly good road trip yet again.
I was a little excited there in the first, the way Williamson came out throwing the ball, but man, the second got away from us quick and just never really able to recover from there.
That it didn't, and we will talk about that and more here in just a moment, right after what is everybody's favorite intro after a pretty abysmal loss.
And a bench to bench. Change hit in the air to deep right field. That goes to Benson. believe it? Johnny Bench is tying it up. The Cincinnati Reds win the World Series in 4 straight. It was a sweep.
In the dirt, it's a wild pitch. Here comes Foster. The Reds win the pennant.
Hawkins won the game.
That ball is fair. Cincinnati's ahead. 2 games to none.
Welcome Joe Aranda to Cincinnati. Adam Dunn has done it again. Benzinger backing and calling. And the 1990 World Championship belongs to the Cincinnati Reds.
Marty, yes. This is Adam from Milwaukee. Hey, Adam, how you doing? I'm good. How are you? Good. Do you think Scott Chatterbox is a good player?
Dunn up there with the bases loaded, the outfield deep and around toward right, and the 1-0 on the way to the plate. Swung on, long drive, right field, and this one belongs to the Reds.
And a high drive. Hit back into deep right field. Junior has just knocked the door down to the 500 club.
Benson's first home run is a walk-off winner. That ball had a family.
And De La Cruz is, oh my goodness, look at this kid run. My, oh my, that is a triple.
Matt McClain's first big league bomb.
Spencer Steer's first big league hit is a home run to straightaway center field. Joey Votto's done it again.
The pitch. Votto swings high in the air. Right field. Yes! He pointed to the dugout to say, I told you. That is Joey Votto's 315th career go-ahead ribby. Only Johnny Bench had more as a Red.
And I can't tell you how much it means to play in front of everyone here in Cincinnati as a Red. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. So thank you. Thank you.
I think I can speak for all of Reds country. Joey Votto, thank you.
High drive. Left center field. Racing back to the Laurent Bourgeois. The Reds are National League Central Division champions. In the air, left center field. Did he? Did he? He did! He did! Red win! Win! Line to right field. Genius, the first Red ever with 4 home runs in a game. Can you believe it? In the air, down the right field line. Does it have a chance? The Reds have won on a 3-run home run on opening day by Ramon Hernandez. A strike away and out away is Homer Bailey. Ground ball to third. Frazier gloves. Throw to first, and Homer Bailey, for the second time in his major league career, has tossed a no-hitter. Oh, gosh. Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Holy Moses, the second player in major league history to hit 7 home runs in the first 10 games. In the air, and the Reds win it. What a dream beginning to the career of Jay Bruce.
All right, Corey. Anybody can do a show when you win in a big fashion. Anybody can do a show, Corey, when times are going great. And I would still argue times are pretty good around here as Cincinnati Reds fans. But not everybody is built to do a show at 3:29 Eastern Standard during the middle of a work day after losing 6-1 on getaway day to the Tampa Bay Rays. We finally are headed home. And it was a game in which, to be frank, was pretty boring's a strong word. But I think that's what I might go with. Welcome in. I don't know if it's I know we've been on a show together before. I don't know if we've been on a show of recent where it's just us two after a game, but nonetheless, good to see you, Corey.
Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Not all heroes wear capes, so sometimes you got to do the dirty work, and here we are to do the dirty work, and there's not very many honors bestowed upon us Reds fans, so I'm one of the lucky Reds fans that gets to do a Chatterbox Reds with Trace Fowler, so you can't kill my mood today no matter what we did after a winning road trip, going back home in a good mood, so here we go. It's a pleasure to be on with you, Trace.
All right, love it. I would just say I think most reasonable people understand this is part of the game. I don't think that at any moment do you accept loss. Like you're not just like, you don't come to the yard just being like, yeah, it's cool if we lose. But I do think that once you get into the middle of the game, you have Williamson throwing the ball, which we'll talk about here in a minute. He certainly wasn't sharp by any stretch of the imagination. It just kind of felt like a gross day that you just need to get out of town on, and your stay's welcome. I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas. I don't know if you've listened to this podcast, if you've ever been to Vegas, but every time I've gone to Vegas, after about 2 nights there, I think it's about time for me to leave, and I've had enough time. I've kind of had that similar feeling as I was watching the game in Tropicana Field. Also, not the most beautiful ballpark as well, as it looks like some of the sand shots that happened coming out of my bunker game in the outfield. I don't know what that's about, though, Corey. You know what I'm talking about? It looks like a complete blast of sand every time it hits the ground.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the heck that's about. I'm not sure what they've got underneath of there. I guess when you're in Tampa, you want to feel like you're at the beach, even if you're at the ballpark. So
maybe so.
But the only excuse I can come up with, I'm not sure what's going on there.
I was thinking that maybe we'd see if there's some oil below there, how much sand's coming up off that, but that's here nor there. Maybe that's a bad topic conversation around these parts right now. All right, let's jump into the if you haven't already, as always, please like the stream. That would be a huge help. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in on a show like this. It's like one of those things where you're just here for the ride. I mean, you want to talk about just being a true kind of loyalist. You are that if you are here right now. So I just want to say thank you for that. Like the stream. Give us a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, et cetera, et cetera. All right, I got a box score recap, Corey, and unless you have one.
I do not have one.
All right. Well, I was gonna say I didn't want you working like an hour on this box score recap, and I didn't know nothing about it. And then all of a sudden, I just threw you under the bus and never gave you an opportunity. So as you know, typically I'm not all that responsible for the box score recap, but I'm gonna do my best today. So here we go. For those that are wondering, the box score recap is presented by Sharefax Credit Union. Sharefax is rooted right here in Cincinnati with 9 branches across the city. They're a non-for-profit financial institution, which means they're owned by their members. So instead of profits going to shareholders, they're returned to you through lower fees and better rates and all the traditional banking options that you would expect. Right now, Sharefax has a great auto loan promotion. You can get 1.5% off qualified rate when you refinance your vehicle, and your first payment isn't due for 90 days. Loans are subject to membership and credit approval, and restrictions may apply. For full terms and conditions, visit sharefax.org. You can also apply online or give them a call at 513-753-2440. All right, box score recap. Brandon Williamson was not good at all. Yet again, I might add. We'll get to him here in a bit in the show. 4 1/3 innings for a bullpen that kind of needed a little bit of help. We'll also talk about that. I wasn't totally understanding of the bullpen decision-making on a day like today where the game seemed out of hand, and yet you have some guys that haven't thrown in multiple days really not even be an option at times. But 7 hits, 5 runs, 3 walks, 3 Ks, a couple standouts from the offensive side, even though there really weren't any. Nate Lowe did get a hit, 1 for 3, and scored the lone run for your Cincinnati Reds. TJ Friedel would go 1 for 4. Spencer Steer would also be 1 for 3. That was also, by the way, I'm sure Nick is going to edit this and give you a much better box score recap for the podcast, which is a pretty good time to promote the fact that there is a podcast for each and every single morning after every single game, and it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different than this show. Corey, where do we start in a game like this? I would just say this. I think that there were some opportunities that existed that would have put some what I would call game pressure on the Rays, and we kind of missed the boat. We didn't give ourselves a chance to execute. Unfortunately, you have the bases loaded with nobody out. You wind up only getting 1 run in a spot like that. Friedel unfortunately hits a kind of a ball off the end of the bat in which Spencer Steer gets thrown out of the plate. I think there was some debate on that whole play, Corey, on whether or not Steer should have done this or that. That's just one of those plays where before the ball's hit, you're already making the decision on what you're going to do. I like trying to put pressure on the defense. The truth is that you're at worst case going to have another guy in scoring position if you do get thrown out at the plate. Best case scenario, maybe they throw it away and you find a way to make what would have been just a mild inning, a really, really big inning. So otherwise, that was a missed opportunity. And then the other thing, I'll pull up the old velo on it, exit velo on it, but Matt McLean hit a ball really, really hard. And if it's 10 feet left and or right, Corey, we have a double. You find yourself in a 1-run game, and it's just a different. I think it's just a different mantra, a different mindset, and I think you might go to the pen, maybe a hitter or two earlier for Williamson to try to see if you can't steal yet another game on getaway day. But it was all for naught. They leave Williamson out there. He gives up some more runs, and then it just kind of felt like it ballooned from there. Your overall take, I guess, overarching on the game itself, and any other kind of standout moments that you kind of pick up on?
Like you say, it's your typical getaway day. Once we kind of lost track of it there in the second inning, it just felt like we were never going to get back on track. Williamson really struggled to throw strikes. He couldn't even throw a strike to second base to get himself out of the inning there on the double play. And so, like you say, just missed opportunities. They had a couple, I think 3 different balls caught right there at the wall. Little warning track power. If those, if you get under those a little bit more, it's a completely different ball game. With the Spencer Steer thing, I completely agree with you. If you're going to go on contact, though, go on contact. When you watch that replay, it almost looked like he had his weight on his back foot and then decided to go. So it's like, yeah, if you're going to go. But I don't hate the play. I like trying to put a little bit of pressure on him there. It's just a missed opportunity, like you say. 9 times out of 10, they'll probably throw it away anyway if he is running on contact. But it almost seemed like he had his weight on his back foot just a little bit too much there, and just couldn't quite make that play. But other than that, like you say, just one of those days at the office.
You made mention that 9 times out of 10. I think you were trying to say that basically he's going to get thrown out regardless whether he goes on contact or not, and he was. I mean, he was dead to right more than likely. So I just don't think it's worth really making a huge emphasis on that. But I will say, like in the second inning, you had made mention of the fact that it kind of felt like it got away from you. You're only down 3-0, and I know that's a pretty deep hole. Like it's not nothing, but it still felt like a surmountable deficit. And you come up and you then give up another run to make it 4-0 in the third inning, and then basically you find yourself in a situation where you get the bases loaded and you don't have a chance to capitalize on the 4-0 situation to make it maybe 4-2 worst case or 4-3. And at that point, it felt like you missed your opportunity. And then, oh, by the way, the very next inning, you go single, walk, single, and boom, you're down 5-1. And then if you watch college basketball or maybe even the NBA, kind of felt like there for a moment you cut the 15-point lead down to 5, and then you come right out of a TV timeout or a timeout, and the other team hits back-to-back threes, and you look back up and you're right there. You're back down 9 again, or whatever that number would end up being. So that's just kind of the mantra of the day. Williamson, maybe the bigger storyline, I think, in my opinion, or the biggest talking point on a day like today. The offense is what it is. We'll talk about them here in a minute. But Williamson, I don't want to say it's like a major concern because he is who he is. He's a 5th starter. Probably a guy that wasn't supposed to make the rotation coming out of spring training, clearly, if things were even remotely going the way the Reds were hoping. But I had high hopes. I think I said on the preseason that I do like Williamson, and I do like the competitive spirit that he brings. But it does seem like, I will be honest, Corey, it does seem like the last few outings, he's not good enough to do the things that he's been doing, which is just walking an alarming amount of guys. And he puts himself behind the 8 ball. And, I would try to blame it the last time on, it was cold and in Minnesota, and he had his homecoming. And this time, there's really no excuse. I mean, you're pitching in a dome. There's no rain. Shout out to that situation with him and Charlie. But at some point, Williamson's going to have to throw the ball a little bit better for me to believe that he belongs to stay up here. I mean, I guess you could argue who's going to come up and take his place right now. And he's obviously the odd man out whenever you do get somebody, whether it be Lodolo. Hopefully we get Lodolo back before Green, but you get the point. Your overall thoughts on Williamson? Am I making too much out of the fact that I just think he just doesn't have the goods right now?
No, I think we were it was one of those where he looked really good in spring training, so that kind of put a little bit of a Band-Aid on where he was at as far as recovery and that sort of thing. It just, after you see the last couple outings, I think you're right. It doesn't look like he's big league ready and just needs a little bit more time to come up. But at the same token, with the injuries that we do have to our starting pitching, thank God for guys like Brandon Williamson to be able to get through it. But like you say, once we get Lodolo back, we'll have to sharpen some things up. And I'm a big Brandon Williamson fan. I like his competitiveness, and I like the fact that he's out there every 5 days when we absolutely need him right now. But like you said, we've got to sharpen him up a little bit and get a little bit better outing. What? Give me your thoughts on the bullpen, man. You said you had a couple issues there, like you felt like you got some arms in the bullpen in the back end.
Yeah,
what was
I don't know. People are going to think I'm just trying to be a stand for Connor Phillips. I know that, and I said what I said earlier in this week about Connor Phillips, and I stand by that. I think he's a really, really good arm, and I think he's probably one of the better arms of the bullpen. But I don't like using him as much as we've used him of late. And I do get the idea that, and I'll pull up some numbers here and try to be the best Nick Kirby that I can be. But the truth is like, he's a younger guy. I would like to try to push like Pagan. And to be fair, I know that if we would have come all the way back and you tie the game and you go into whatever, and you need Pagan, but like I would have rather just been like, hey, we're gonna just punt on the fact that if we do come back from 5 runs down, we're just gonna have to try to go with somebody we don't really trust to try to get us through the extra innings, because the chances, in my opinion, of getting to those extra innings were slim to none anyways, and yet we've continued to run out a guy that I just don't think is totally fair in the spot that he was ran out there today. And to give everybody an idea of what in the world I'm talking about, Connor Phillips has thrown, not including today, so I don't have today's numbers in there, but he's thrown over the last 6 days 3 fewer pitches than Brock Burke out of the bullpen, and I'm not counting Nicholas because he threw about 70 pitches in 1 inning yesterday. So you have guys like Santillan, who, yes, I get it, he came in and he had to kind of alleviate the pressure. But maybe Pagan's not healthy, and that's part of it, but Pagan's thrown 29 pitches in 6 days. So I just thought that maybe there was an opportunity for him to throw. It sounds crazy, but I didn't get a chance to watch the top of the 8th, so who the hell knows? Maybe he threw, and people are making fun of me in the chat right now, and I'll have to go back and look. But ultimately, my point in saying this is I just maybe I'm a stand for Connor Phillips, but he didn't seem like the guy that should have been throwing in that situation. And someone's going to say, who could have thrown? I don't care who you throw. Go out, throw Pierce Johnson out there. And I know that Pierce Johnson, I guess theoretically had thrown 17 and 16 on back-to-back days.
Even Brock Burke, though. Brock Burke only threw, 14 in the last 3 days. So
yes, Brock Burke's thrown 14 in the last 3 days. But you have Connor Phillips, who I guess had the day off yesterday, but came off of 23-16 day off, 16-19 day off, and then now you're asking him to go out there again in kind of a mop-up role. I just don't like it. I don't know if I'm just being too big of a simp for Connor Phillips or not, but I kind of like just keep him in more of high-leverage situations, and let's let some of these other guys come in and clean up some of this mess. But it doesn't help that it just doesn't help when you got a guy that you're paying the most money in your bullpen and he's throwing 29 pitches in 6 days. I don't know. So, and I get maybe he's hurt, so maybe I don't know the full story, but that was the only issue. Am I screaming about it? Do I think it's the world's worst thing? No, but I just didn't love seeing it, Corey.
Right, I completely understand where you're coming from. I was kind of looking at it from a different standpoint as far as just Phillips giving us a couple innings and kind of saving some of the arms. But I guess once you start looking at some of the numbers, that completely makes sense where you're coming from. I just I hadn't looked at it quite like that yet, so I wasn't sure what you meant there. But yeah, that's an excellent point. You got to keep everybody sharp. And even Brantley brought it up on the podcast. Anybody that's worth their salt should not sit for 3 days in a row, and that sort of thing. So you got to keep your arms fresh. So that was a good point. I just hadn't thought about it like that.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I don't know if it's something that's worth getting fired up about, but I do think They have a day off. They have a day off tomorrow. Interesting topic of conversation really quickly that we can jump on is there was maybe a thought that I had in my head that this was maybe a kind of a sneaky good day to give Ellie a day off. I know that he's played well as of late. And I also wonder, Corey, they brought the stat up or they put the number up there, and I don't have it in front of me right now. But ultimately he's trying to chase down a record of the most consecutive games played. Or he's climbing up the list of that. I just wonder if that's part of it. I do, because you come in preseason, in spring training, and you're talking about how, you did him a disservice last year, and he's a young player, and you asked him to play every day, wore down, he was injured, blah, 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 blah. Yet he has not got a day off yet. And today kind of felt like a day where that could have been the case. And yes, he has an off day tomorrow. I get it. But you can kind of give him 2 days back-to-back to kind of get completely refreshed coming into another homestand. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's fair or not, but it seems like if you're going to give him when's he going to get his break? If he didn't get his break today, when's he get his break?
Right, and that's exactly it. Even if you just DH him today and take him out of the lineup with your putting Nathaniel Lowe and Eugenio Suarez and the likes in the lineup anyway, you can go ahead and put him on the field, put McLean at short, let Sal play second, and just kind of go about it that way and at least get him off the field. I kind of assumed he was getting a day off in the first game of the series after that funny slide that he had in the series before that. So I really kind of thought there was a day off coming there. So I'm not sure when that day off's coming, but like you said, we ran into that trouble last year when he kind of ran out of gas there at the end of the season, and injuries and that sort of thing played a part too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but we said there was going to be more an emphasis on getting Ellie rest, and we got to try to figure out when we're going to do that. And like you say, today did seem like one of those days.
Yeah, and I wish I had that stat that they showed on the broadcast just yesterday about the consecutive games that he's played in a row as a Red, and I'll try to dig that up before the next time I'm on, just to make sure I can kind of tie a bow around that if Nick doesn't jump to it already, perhaps in the podcast, and probably deliver that information. But I guess you move forward. You have to talk about the offense as a whole. It wasn't great, but I also think it wasn't horrific. You have Nick Martinez, who we've seen countless times in a Reds uniform, pitch the ball relatively well. I don't want to sit here and act like Nick Martinez is more than what he is. He's a good arm. I don't think he's a great arm. But the truth of the matter is that, that just wasn't their day. They didn't capitalize on a few opportunities that we talked about at the top of the show. And if they would have, I think we have a completely conversation around what that offense, quote unquote, did or didn't do. It was nice to see Matt McLean hit a ball hard. Yes, TJ Friedl leads off the game with a hit. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to really kind of get rewarded for another ball that I thought he hit. Probably the best ball he hit all day was an out, which just showcases baseball. Had a huge spot on first and third with one out, and Benson did steal on the pitch that he put the ball in play. And really, if you'd have hit the ball anywhere besides the first baseman and the pitcher, the Reds do get a run there. But unfortunately, it's kind of a little bit of a off the end of the bat squibber to the first baseman. And as we mentioned, Steer got thrown out at the plate. So Lowe kind of looked the part yet again. He's kind of going to be that high floor guy that I think the Reds expected to get. But otherwise, anything that stood out to you on a day like today from an offensive standpoint?
Not really from an offensive standpoint. You brought it up on yesterday's show about Spencer Steer kind of being a catalyst for how this team goes up and down. It was nice to see him stay home base and hit the ball hard. So if we can keep guys like Spencer Steer and TJ Friedl hot, man, it does wonders for this lineup. So hopefully we can go home and get one of these winning streaks, these 5-game winning streaks going on in Great American Ballpark. That'll make it a lot more fun. So just looking forward to getting back home now and hopefully keeping the guys hot that have been hot here recently. Not so much today, but just keeping it hot, getting past it.
I think I'm ready. If we're going to play Spencer Steer against right-handed pitching, which it certainly seems like that's what we're going to do, and I'm not here to debate whether or not you should or shouldn't do that. I'm sure that people would think that, some Nick and the platoon analytic crowd is going to always argue that maybe he should be platoon with perhaps with TJ Friedl. I just don't see that ever happening, so I'm not even going to go down that road. But I'm open to putting Steer towards the top of this lineup. I'm not trying to take anything away from Matt McClain and or Friedel. I'm not trying to do that on a day like today. The Reds are playing fantastic baseball. They're sitting atop the division. There's no reason to make, too big of anything in a negative light. I still think it's just asinine that we have Friedel hitting leadoff, and we're going to put Matt McClain in the 2-hole for what it seems like eternity. It makes no sense to me, and I will continue to say that until it does make sense, because that's what I guess you're supposed to do on a show like this. Friedel is as nice as it is that he got a hit today, and as nice as it is that he got a big hit the other day in Minnesota. I mean, we're not slugging. Our OPS is just terrible. I mean, to put it in perspective, the top 2 hitters in this lineup, OPS, is if you added them together, it pretty much is about the same as what the 3 and 4 hitter are on this team. I mean, 2 guys don't even add up to the same production as 1 guy, and you could pick 2 different guys for that to be the case in. So I just don't think it's a big ask to move up. Now, Steer, like it or not, as much as he did struggle to start the season, he has had some pop. There's some power there from, if you want to keep sticking with the OPS agenda, Steer's up to a 730 OPS. Like, that's good right now for what is 3rd in this lineup, even better than A. Eugenio. So, and that's what I would also mention. Sneakily, and it's very early to say this, I don't want to make it sound as if like it's a disaster, because it's not, but Suarez kind of at some point is going to have to do what we expect Suarez to do, which is just carry this offense for like a week. It's like just go on a tangent, hit 4 or 5 home runs in 1 week with a couple doubles, and give yourself give your team 2 runs a night for what seems like 4 days in a row. That hasn't happened yet, Corey, but I'm hoping it will. But I'm ready. I guess if anything I take away from this game is to move Sear up. And don't let me forget, but there's one thing that Benson did today that I want to remind everybody that there's a reason why he finds himself, unfortunately for him, in the doghouse time and time again.
Oh, now you got me intrigued. I got to hear it. Let's hear it.
You want to know already? All right. I don't think it's fair. I'll start off by saying I don't think it's fair, because I don't know if everyone else on this roster would be theoretically held to the same standard from a IQ level and or keeping your head in the game. But there was a fly ball hit out to Benson that was pretty shallow, relatively shallow. He assumed that the guy on third base was not going to tag. That's the only thing that I can come up with as the way in which he reacted after he caught the ball. He took 2 steps before he even threw the ball. If he felt like that guy was going to run home, he would have been firing that thing essentially as immediately as he possibly could have. 1 crow hop and you let it rip. And I think he just took it for granted that guy in third base wasn't going to go, and he did. He went, and he challenged him. And, basically Benson was late on the throw. It hits the guy running up the line, and it's just a bad look. It's a bad look. Is it the end of the world? No. Do I think it made a difference in this game at the end of it all? No. Did he lose the game? He didn't. But I'm telling you right now, everybody wants to sit here and say, well, this, that, and the next about Tito. There are certain things, like we all have, by the way. Like, this isn't just a Tito thing. We all have them. We all have just the little, whether it's tics or whether it's certain things that bug us personally if somebody does them. I think that that's the type of play that really bugs Tito to a level in which is probably irrational. Probably shouldn't bug him as much as it does, but it's going to. And he's probably thinking to himself, this guy doesn't really get that many opportunities, yet when he gets an opportunity, he does something like that. And yes, it's not the end of the world. But don't come crying to me, and again, as somebody that defends Will Benson as much as you humanly can, don't come crying to me when you do get opportunities to play and something like that were to happen. It reminds me of Stuart Fairchild not remembering how many outs there were. It really does. Like, Stuart Fairchild gets basically also annexed from the baseball team. He gets left behind because of the situation that happened in spring training. I can't even remember if he swung 3-0 or...
That's exactly what it was.
I think, yeah. So it's like, as stupid as that sounds, Corey, I think that's like the way Tito operates, man. Like, you swing 3-0, and you're not even a guy that's like somebody that we kind of need. You're just a fringe guy. You're borderline here, and you're doing that. I'm done with it. And I don't think that's fair, to be clear. But I do think that that's a little bit of who Tito is, like it or not.
I kind of compare it to the way you use Key Brian Hayes having to be perfect defensively. He has to be perfect defensively because of what he does on the other side of the field. It's kind of the same thing with Will Benson. Will Benson, when he gets his opportunities, he's almost got it. You got to play perfect, man. And little things like that, just eat at old school managers like Tito. And I think you're right, man. He's already kind of got it in the back of his head with Will Benson anyway, I feel like, with all the trials and tribulations that he went through last year. So when little things like that happen and it comes up in the air between playing one guy or the other, things like that are going to stick in Tito's craw, and he's probably going to lean the other way. So I think you're right. That's a great point.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's the way it should be, to be clear. Do I think that just because he took an extra step today and threw a ball that he probably had a 5% chance of throwing the guy out? I don't know what the percent chance was, but, whatever. Maybe it's 50-50 at best. Do I think that he should be, put in the doghouse for 5 days because of it? No. I don't think it was that egregious of an error. But for a guy that hit a pop-up and didn't run it out and was already scolded about it, and was in the doghouse for multiple weeks after that. Like, he needs to remember when he's in there, like, he's just got to be on his he's got to be on his P's and Q's. Like, he can't, there's no margin for mental mistakes. Like it or not, fair or unfair. That's the point.
Right. Yeah.
He did have a decent day at the plate. Like, I know he's 0 for 2, but I thought he had some good at bats. He walked. So it's not like Benson's been horrific. But at the same time, it's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't, man. You gotta play really, really well when you only get so many opportunities.
Right. And I will say in Will's defense, though, my man was charging hard because that was kind of in a no man's land a little bit. So his momentum was carrying him the other way. So I will try to give Will Benson a little benefit of the doubt there. But like you say, a little more heads up there, you've got to be ready to make that play at the plate. But thank God he was there to make that catch, because if that falls into no man's land, it's a whole nother story too, I guess. But so.
Like I said, is it fair to put him underneath the scope as much as I am right now on making that play as big of a talking point on the show like this? Probably not. But I guess what I'm trying to do is do investigative journalism on why or why not he will get the opportunities that he will get from here moving forward. And I think he's been more than good enough, to be clear, to earn more opportunities than he has. I'm trying to be a little more hesitant on the Will Benson talk, because I do think last year there were times where we on this show made it out to seem like he was Barry Bonds and he wasn't getting any opportunities. So I try to be a little soft on the stance this year about who Will Benson is, but I'd like to see him more personally. But there's only so many spots in the outfield, and if TJ Friedel's going to continue to get as much run as he's gotten, Dane Myers has played great. Spencer Steer's kind of turning it on a little bit. He looks pretty good at the plate. Reese Hines is supposed to be able to play every day for a month straight, just so we can see what that is. There's only so many guys that can play, and it feels like he's kind of unfortunately for him, on the outside looking in. We'll see ultimately what happens, but just something to keep in the back of your mind if for some reason it doesn't seem like Benson's getting as many reps as he should in the next call it week. It could be something as stupid as that, and I'll call it for what I think it is. I think that would be stupid, but we'll see. I wouldn't put it past him. All right. There's more baseball to be played. There is an off day, thankfully, for the Reds. It seems like they have bounced back. Not that they need to bounce back, to be clear. hell of a road trip. It's not that they need to bounce back. But, you follow a loss. You got to find a way to get back on track. And they've done a pretty good job of doing that as of late. Shout out to Nick Kirby on the behind the scenes, too, for getting all these up. But the Reds will be back in action on Friday. It'll be on Reds TV. We will be live in the 9th as always. Abbott goes up against Valdez, so another really good left-handed arm that the Reds are going to have to face. Thankfully, based off of the meteorologist that is Nick Kirby, we will miss Skubal as long as we can keep the grounds dry enough that we don't have any kind of rainouts or something along those lines that could perhaps make that become a reality for Skubal. I don't know if they play tomorrow or not, but I guess tomorrow there's a chance they could get rained out. I don't really totally know what the Tigers' schedule is, but we'll keep an eye on it, and let's hope that's not the case. Andrew Abbott, 0-2 with a 5.84 ERA. Valdez, 2-1 with a 3.3 ERA. Valdez is a guy that we've seen before, Corey. Just a really, really good arm that has the type of guy that can go out and just dominate. If he's spotting well and he's throwing pitches for strikes, off-speed pitches for strikes, then you're going to find yourself in a spot where, unfortunately, the Reds are probably going to struggle. But maybe they can find a way to win 2-1, 3-1, 1-0. We've seen that plenty of times.
Ain't that the truth? And I think Framer's one of those guys that likes to use the umpires' calls and sometimes get the calls on the edges and that sort of stuff. So the ABS kind of changes things a little bit with a guy like Framer Valdez too. So I'm kind of interested to see what that looks like tomorrow. So or on Friday, I guess, not tomorrow. I'm going to take the day off with everybody else, I guess. But
you don't have to.
Yeah, come to work if I want to, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, so like you say, another left-handed arm, will be up against it for sure. But it could be a good start to a good homestand if we can get on Valdez and kind of roll into the weekend as Hall of Fame induction weekend. So should be a fun weekend at the ballpark regardless.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Brandon Phillips, going to sign a one-day contract that appears to retire as a Red. Always thought that was kind of a weird, funny, goofy thing that we do in sports, but hey, let's do it. Why not? Maybe at some point, let's maybe if there's a way. I know you can't do it, but I know that they did it for Kershaw in the All-Star game. Is there a way that we could perhaps start to institute like a one-at-bat rule that on the Hall of Fame night of whoever it is, they don't need to be added to any 40-mans or nothing like that. But if the team would like to, they're actually allowed to put them in uniform and they could get one at bat. And I'd love to just see Brandon Phillips get up there one more time and let's just see how it goes. He probably hasn't touched a bat in like 3 years, ever since he was playing with the Legends down there in Lexington. Shout out to the Lexington Legends, who knew that they were going to get a shout out at 4:02 on April 22nd on Chatterbox Reds. But we have some super chats, and I just want to say, for the amount of people that are watching this show, thank you very, very much. Like the stream if you haven't already. The supers are awesome, guys. We very much appreciate them. A. Benyaz Harris says, Tito trusts TJ Friebel more than Sal stealing third base. Yeah, there's some frustration. I get it with there's some frustration with guys not playing well. That's really what it comes down to. Like if TJ Friedel gets really hot for 2 or 3 weeks, nobody's going to complain anymore about it, but and me included. But that's going to have to start happening here relatively soon. I know I'm a Grinch. People hate me, think I'm a toxic bubble. I don't care. I don't think one swing of the bat should just erase a month and a half worth of piss poor baseball. Personally, that's me. I'm not going to go down that path today because the Reds are playing great, absolutely fantastic. I'm not doing it, but I'm just saying, I'd love to show up to work and be absolutely piss poor for a month and a half, and then come in one day and accidentally make the perfect coffee for everybody in the office, and everybody think it's great. We can do it for another month and a half. We'll see. We'll find out. Vandy 5140 says, we'll go on another 5-game winning streak soon. Seems that way. The hell with 6-game winning streaks. We don't need those. We'll just do 5. Just keep doing 5, mix a loss in, 5, mix a loss in. If we keep doing that, I think it's going to go pretty well this season. Ned Flanders, what would we do without Ned? He said, here's a $5. Joke's on you, Ned. That's $10 you've sent. I don't know if you know, but that's $10 you sent. He said, here's $5 a piece. Oh, a piece. I get it now.
Okay.
Now we're doing math. Chatterbox Reds. I jumped to conclusions. Here's $5 a piece for analyzing this snoozer. My gripe of the day is that we strike out looking on middle fastballs from Nick Martinez. That is today. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm doing my best. We're doing our best. Me and Corey are doing our best on this show. I don't know what the hell you want us to say. It was a piss poor game. The Reds stunk it up. Williamson looks like he should be pitching in Louisville, and we just didn't win. So we're going to move on, see if we can't beat the Tigers on Friday. Shout out to Reds TV. Don't have to worry about having an Apple TV subscription for that, so that's nice. But that's near nor there. So thank you, Ned. Appreciate the $5. Jackson says, first super ever. Thank you, Jackson. It's a kid show, or I would have said something. First super ever. But got to keep the head held high. It's the best start to a Red season that I remember. Winning the close games that we have matters in October. Yes, it does. We have built up a little bit of equity, as I'd like to say. Our retirement on this season, if you want to call it that, we've built up a little bit of a savings in our retirement. Just in case if something goes bad, perhaps the car engine breaks down, we got a little bit of a hospital bill coming that we didn't see happening, we're still going to be all right. That's where we're at for the Reds so far. Whether or not we can, maybe put some more money in the bank here soon, we'll find out. Let's hope that we can make some more deposits here soon. All right, Just Dark says the Reds? ? More like Peds. Trajan Garvey is off the fireball like a mug. That I got to slow down. All right, I'll read this again. The Reds? More like Peds. That's a good joke. Trajan Garvey is off the fireball like mug, and that stuff gets you lit. Boy, I tell you what, we need to go back to like Hooked on Phonics or what are some other things that we could do? Like those like vocabulary books you had to do. At least when I had to go to school, I had to fill out all those vocabulary books. Now, don't tell nobody this, but I used to actually get my friend's vocabulary book and just fill in all the answers because he did all the work, and then I just fill them in. Seemed like a smarter thing to do.
It's easier that way.
Just way easier. Insanely easier. Trajan, he's back for more. Last two supers here. He says, I think Williamson was drinking some Fireball pregame. And Katie Kennedy and the Blith, am I supposed to say? Blith Bay? Say hi. Am I supposed to know what that is?
I know. Yeah, that one's got me too. I have no idea.
Katie Kennedy and Blith Bay. Say hi. Well, hi. Hi, Katie.
Hi. Okay.
All right. Folks, I'm sure there'll be some more information on the podcast. As far as today's game, what I'd like to tell you is if you live in the Cincinnati area, it turned into a beautiful day. It stormed out in the morning. The thunderstorms were rolling in, lightning everywhere. You thought, oh, man, what a miserable existence it would be to be out there. But now you look outside, and it looks glorious. What I would tell you is you just put down the phone, you go touch some grass, you don't worry about what happened today for the Cincinnati Reds, and you wake up on Friday ready to roll, and ready to roll. From myself and Corey, we say thank you. We very much appreciate all the super chats, and we also want to say, go Reds. Have a great night. And this isn't going to be the cleanest outro because I got to run the graphics, which means it's going to be a minute. All right? Thank you.